Party going. Good morning, everyone. Jose J. Garcia, real estate investor, coach, and mentor. So, this morning, 10 a.m. live every Saturday. It's typically a weekend check in. We talk about mobile home investing, any hiccups, anything we learn, or we can add value. That's always the goal, is to add value. But we do have a podcast that we also do, and we have not had one in a while. So, I thought about who is one of our best investors that we could bring on to add some value. Robert Bogino showed up. That's when I think about investing mobile homes and land, because we're going to be talking about some of the land packages. So by my side here to the left, I have Mr. Robert Bogino. He is a mobile home investor. He's a realtor. He specializes in mobile homes on land, private land, not mobile home parks, and he's an all-around entrepreneur. So Robert, good morning. Robert, you hear me pretty good?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, you broke up there for a second. Thanks for having me, Jack.
Absolutely. Hopefully, we don't have any internet connections, any hiccups. But yeah, so no, thank you for joining me this morning. We have the shadow, the events, so many, and we're always talking about so many opportunities with mobile home investing, and so many exit strategies. One of those exit strategies is mobile homes on private land. That's what you specialize in, and I mean that's a beautiful investment to get into. But before we get into that, why mobile homes for you?
I got into mobile homes. I liked the low barrier of entry cost wise. I was doing single family homes. Typically you're putting a lot more into it, even if you're using hard money, more into the rehab, of course, higher sales price, which to me equals more risk. As we kind of saw in that market shift about, 6 to 8 months ago. I myself had a single family at the time, got caught a little bit, had to take a little bit of a hit. At the same time, it was kind of interesting that single family home that was in the 300s, I had to keep dropping in price, and my mobile homes that were listed kept actually rising while everybody else's prices were dropping. So that was a big appeal to me. I like being able to offer affordable housing to people. It's a much easier group of buyers to work with, in my opinion.
Mhm.
A lot more people appreciate that than arguing with people in the 400, 500 price range, where by the end of the transaction everybody hates each other, they're arguing about the backsplash, all these ridiculous things. So all that kind of, and just kind of the when I was getting into it, I noticed a lot less competition than it was in the single family market, where my marketing budget dropped literally 90% for being able to acquire mobile homes as opposed to single family homes.
Yeah, I've heard of stories like that, the micromanaging, the tensions, the last putting pieces together in real estate, and the delay. I mean, all around when I think about a closing a mobile home versus a stick bill. But how long you been doing this? The land package, we call land packages, mobile homes and private land.
I've been doing mobile homes. I was starting to renovate them at first. Been doing that a few years. The new home on land packages only been about 2 years since I started doing that. Now I'm primarily doing that. Again, that's kind of taking the next step in the easy button. Taking 6 to 8 months for a rehab mobile home, whereas if you're doing everything on time and permits are going, through on when they should, from the day you purchase land to the day you sell it, I mean, you could be 3 to 4 months in and done. Um, so that's what I kind of realized. I mean, it's a lot less site visits than a rehab. Rehab, you're there, 3, 4 days a week, kind of micromanaging everything. This is only kind of a few steps. And typically they're a little bit easier to sell than rehabs. Your inspections are going to go a lot easier. You qualify for different types of loans. So once I started doing this, I really like this model a lot more. Again, easier to acquire land than it is, actual mobile home structures. Just kind of taking out all the difficult parts of flipping or rental property acquiring.
And I mean, even 3 4 months. I mean, to me, that sounds like an eternity because we rehab in a months. But your rehabs are not like my rehab.
Right,
Your rehabs are next
right.
level. Because of the different clientele. There's private land, there's more value. So that's a little different. On June 10th, for those of you listening on here, June 10th, Robert Bogino is going to give us access to his property. He's going to have an event, which will give you more details towards the end. But this is where he's going to get to display his latest and greatest, which looks beautiful, by the way. I've seen some of the picture you're posting, and I mean, beautiful double wide on a piece of property. Talk about the land value before bringing a mobile home versus post.
Sure. The land value, if we're looking at two different things, what it's worth to an investor versus what it's worth to a retail person. Um, that price doesn't vary too much in rural areas where I will probably pay around the same price as someone else would that wanted to put a home on there themselves to live on. I mean, typically what you want to do is find two price ranges. You want your ARV, your sales price, to be somewhere in the low 200s to 265, let's say. And you want to require your land anywhere from 20, you could probably go all the way up to 45,000, depending on what is already there. The June 10th event is interesting because it's a raw piece of land that was developed completely from nothing. I mean, full of trees, no water, no septic, no power,
Uh,
nothing. So obviously your costs go way, way up for that, and it takes a lot more planning, but it's still very doable. Putting in well water, things like that. So, I have done pieces of land where I've taken them and just put in the infrastructure, like maybe put a septic tank and water availability there and sold that to people too. That's a model that works really well as well. Raw land, I picked it up for much cheaper that had nothing. We're talking about 15,000, and this is in these areas. These are about 2 acres, so they're big plots. They have to be if you're going to have well and septic, just by environmental standards. But the good thing is about land is you can also find it on the MLS because nobody's really buying land to do this. They don't, have the even if they want to put a mobile home there, they don't know how, or the cost is going to get out of hand by them going to a retail dealer to do this project.
Absolutely. I was not aware you actually came in and developed. I mean, that's just going to add to the event for sure, is share more details, more insight. Because that's always a worry question is it on city water, sewer? You have to mix those things.
Sure.
You are starting from scratch and getting it out there. So some of the rental numbers in that area, stick built versus your mobile homes. I know you're not going to rent it, but
Sure.
if you did.
Sure. And I actually have a rental not far from where the event we're doing.
Okay.
If you do a nice job on the rehab or you have a new mobile home, I don't think there's as big of a gap between single family and mobile homes as there used to be. I mean, because now what you're doing is you're putting these double wides in the same number of bedrooms and baths, the 3-2, let's just take it, going to be similar square footage. Now most of these mobile homes are going to be 1,500 square feet plus. I put my last one up there that looked pretty good for 1,700 a month, and this is in Jasper, Georgia, which is not Atlanta, right? And I thought I was going to get run over with applicants. And these are people that actually paid to do the application fee, credit check, and all that. I got 20 paid applicants in 1 week for that one, and that again, that's at $1,700 a month. And I would think a single family, maybe you're getting $1,800 a month, so not a huge gap like it used to be.
But again, back to the whole low risk, low entry, high reward. How do you lower the risk? Well, one, by lowering the amount of money you have out there. So you have maybe what the half, maybe less than that, than what a stick built, and you're collecting the same monthly. It just makes sense. I mean, and high demand obviously in the area, right? For rentals.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the only thing I would say about a rental versus a single family, we all know manufactured homes can be a little bit more delicate. You might have a little bit more breakage, thinner drywall, things like that. But if you kind of know that stuff in advance, you can tenant proof them a little bit more.
Houses break, mobile homes break a little bit more, absolutely. But sounds like you're doing the whole background and checking who these people are before you put them in the house. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's part of it. You got to have it. It doesn't matter where you do that. So now dealing with the county, I have not infield as many private pieces of property as we have mobile home park pads. But it seems like some of these counties, the rules, the regulations, the zoning, they have speed bump for everything you're trying to do. Talk about a little bit about that, bringing this beautiful double wide you did into the property.
It really depends on the county. So right now I have projects in Pickens, Hall, and Gwinnett County, oddly enough. There hasn't been a brand new mobile home listed on the MLS in Gwinnett County in about 2 years. So it's kind of interesting to do that there. The main thing is doing your due diligence, going through and getting from the county, really speaking to them. If you need to go down there, get somebody face to face, try to get it in writing in an email, what the requirements are. A lot of times it is, they're kind of trying to cut us out, not to be able to do this. So a couple of the ways they do that is saying you have to have a bigger plot of land than a single family home, which of course raises the cost, which makes it ineffective for people to put a mobile home there. The other thing they kind of like to see is if you're in an area of other mobile homes, that's a good indication that you can put one there. Basically you can't just go into some neighborhood and put a mobile home because it's probably going to be something like the HOA, not even the county that will stop you. And then once you get the zoning, you make sure that's okay. You need to find out what the requirements are. Every county is going to have kind of requirements for square footage. So the short answer is if you're putting one in there, it's probably going to need to be a double wide. Some counties are oddly more difficult than others. I just tried to do a deal in Bartow County where they require a 512 pitch roof. That just means kind of the apex of the roof. 512 is very unusual for a manufactured home. There's only a couple of manufacturers that do that across the United States. And that's kind of their way of pricing you out, where these are luxury mobile homes, where if you wanted to live there, that's great. But for me as an investor, I'm never going to recoup that cost of shipping a whole other roof separate than the house, having a crane to put the roof on the house. And it just didn't work out because that was one of their requirements. And that was their way of saying, hey, you can't do this. Pretty clever, but some counties are just easier than others.
Every county is different. Yep. We've had some counties that come back and then approve us just based on who's in charge is the way we see it. But one of those areas was down in the Griffin where, they say, well, we can't limit what age year you can bring a mobile home, but they say it has to be a certain square footage. Well, certain mobile homes square footage didn't come in until later on. So that's their way of saying only 90s and above, or, but specifics, you got to learn this. And again, this is the kind of stuff we're going to be talking about. So now one thing that I love about what you do is, I don't mind being the bank financing, offering options, opportunities. I love that. But with you doing land, you can sell to somebody who can go and get a traditional lender, a bank, or credit union. So talk about some of those benefits.
Sure. So again, we're looking at a big price difference. You're putting a lot more into it than you would a park, but you're selling it for a lot. So it's kind of like if you wanted to do smaller deals and smaller profit, less risk, and then you're kind of going up from there. When you do a new home in particular, it's fairly easy to get it passed for a loan. These qualify for FHA, VA, even pretty much any kind of USDA loan, depending on the area. So once you do the foundation the proper way, which you have to do because it's all permitted, it's going to pass for any of those kinds of loans. So to me, you just have a much bigger buyer pool. You do still sell them for cash a lot. In my world, let's just call it the 250 price point, which I consider affordable housing for someone that's getting a loan. I've got two buyers and nothing in between. It's older retired folks paying cash or first-time home buyers. So I like to have it where I can appeal to all those people. When you're looking at this price range, somebody in the 250, they are at their peak. They just barely qualify for that loan. So if I make my house a little bit nicer, use a nicer model, do a better rehab, I want to get the buyer that's qualified for 265. And there are just things that come up that don't come up in park models. Obviously you're not financing it. But once you learn all those things and learn all the kind of inspections you have to have, or foundation inspections, paperwork you got to have, retiring the title, which is another big thing for land. You have to have that done to get a loan on it. That's what's keeping everyone else from doing what we do. The barrier of entry is too complicated for a lot of people, so that's good for us. Less competition.
But I mean, either way, cash. If somebody brings you cash, that's the thing. Somebody gets finance. I mean, either way, you get your money in full, and you keep on going. You keep on reinvesting. So again, you can't go wrong with something like that. Get all your money back out. So now, when I think about stick built, I think of the yearly crazy taxes you have to pay. You still got to register a mobile home.
Sure.
You still pay a bill, but it's a lot less. Now, when you do a combination of the mobile home and land, how does that defer taxes from your type of investing to a stick built?
So if you have the title still a mobile title, your taxes are always going to be a little bit less because they're going to give you a tax bill for the land and the mobile, especially if it's an older. So if I'm keeping it as a rental, I typically do not retire the title because there's no reasons to make my tax bill. If you're putting a new home on, you as the seller, probably it's not going to materialize fast enough for you to pay extra taxes. But once you sell it, they are going to value it at that sales price. So it's going to be a similar taxes as to a single family home price at 250. Maybe a little bit less, just probably because of where you are. But once it's in the eyes of the law, let's just say, once you retire that title, it's considered real property. It's
Mhm.
treated just like a single family home in taxes and anything else. Any way you sell it, anything like that.
And there's benefits to that too, which we'll talk about the event. But the cost of mobile homes to move, it seems like everything else, it just goes up more and more. So I mean, we're moving some of these. We're 2, 3 thousand once upon a time to move a single wide. Now we're at 6, 7 thousand. It just depends on the mover. But what are some of these costs you're seeing on a double wide?
So to move it, since I do have a dealer's license, so I'm dealing directly with the factory.
Mhm.
Typically, the easiest way to do it is the factory will give you a very big discount on transport to the site. Now, again, I learned the hard way. These guys literally drop it off, and if they can't fit it in your lot, they're leaving it on the side of the road, which has happened. They scramble to get a crew out the next morning just to move it 30 feet. That's where you're going to save on the transport a little bit because obviously they have some sort of deal with the transport company where they're giving the factory a discount. The set crews, like you said, are going up. So typically, to get the mobile home shipped from the factory in South Georgia, where they typically are, for a double wide, you're only looking at around 4 or 5 thousand. But to get it actually set, meaning they're going to put the piers, put the tie downs, kind of tie everything together inside the house, the plumbing, the electrical. You're looking at, you get quotes anywhere from $6,000 to $20,000.
Hey.
And obviously, as an investor, you got to find somewhere in between there. Because again, we're doing permitted things, and we have to have a licensed and bonded company because the fact that the county is going to want to see all those licenses, all that. So more red tape to jump through. Obviously, doing on the land, everybody's got eyes on you. But once you kind of learn the process, and I myself in the last 3 months have been through 3 different set crews. It seems like you have to use the licensed guys, but they're not exactly the best highest grade contractors you can find.
Well, movers, setup crews, handyman, they're all contractors. And we can have a whole day's worth of podcast talking about
Yes.
contractors and
Right.
so for sure.
Right.
Well, I mean, and it's not to scare anybody on here listening in. I see there's a lot more people joining us on Instagram. So welcome this morning. We're talking with Robert Bogino, a real estate investor slash mobile home and land specialist. He specialized in, and I mean, it's just one more thing to keep in mind. As part of the whole due diligence and budgets, and you got to realize that there are expenses with permits, inspections, setups, etc. So now, I would always say, how can I maximize any investment? And when I think about your 2 acres, I'm thinking, what if I bring 5 more mobile homes if I'm allowed? Can you bring more mobile homes into your
Sure.
property?
So I have not personally done that. My model is a little bit different. So let's just talk about where we're going to do the shadow event. There you cannot, because if you have to have septic and well water, minimum 1.5 acres. That's what the county's going to tell you. Now, you may be able to find a piece of property that has 2 or 3 from back in the day, and they may grandfather you in and let you do that if you want to keep them as, kind of like a mini park rental property. And there are those that exist. But typically, if you're going through the whole permit process, that's going to be extremely difficult, because you would have to have the way the county wants you to do is you're going to have a whole separate septic system for each house. And you're probably just not literally going to have the space. Like when we go out to that land, you're going to see that the septic and well water have to be 100 feet away from each other. And even on a 2 acre lot, that's kind of hard to get everything lined up and have the house somewhere in the middle. So that all takes a lot of planning with site maps and things like that. And you could literally buy a piece of land and you look at the tax records and maybe it says it's approved for a mobile home, then all of a sudden you realize you can't put a mobile home there. So that's, if you are buying land, that's what I would always suggest. You need at least 30 to 60 days due diligence to get all that information. If you don't want to go through a zoning battle, it's very difficult, very timely, and sometimes you may just not win.
We've seen it. We've seen in an individual who didn't do his homework, had a mobile home moved, and it turned out it was not allowed in the county. They will make you move that back for those of you listening into. So,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I've also had, and I'm not going to list any names, and I probably shouldn't even say the city, but Dothan, Alabama, a gentleman kept buying mobile home photos. He kept asking, "Hey, give me another single wide." No, so of course, like we do, we supply him. Here's the inventory, at one point, I'm asking him, because we do other things with these park owners, and I asked, "Do you own a park, or where are you putting all these mobile homes?" Apparently, he had a large enough piece of land. He would never tell me how big of a piece of property this was. He just basically was creating his own little mobile home park. County really doesn't need to know. So, I wouldn't suggest that to
Right.
anyone. Forgiveness over permission, that may not go too well. So, but a couple more for you all, Robert. So, what is one thing you look for when you're trying to invest both in a mobile home or a piece of property?
So I'm looking for the main thing I'm going to start with is how much do mobile homes sell in the city?
Mhm.
And there's not a whole lot of people doing my exact model. So there is some kind of guesstimate in signs. So maybe that's where I can do that from being in the single family space and a realtor. Um, there may a lot of the areas I go into, there has not been any new mobile homes sold in the past 2 years. So I kind of have to look at if I've done a rehab, I can use that as a comp and kind of go up or down from there. Sometimes my rehabs actually sell for more than mobile homes because they may have different materials. Like I put granite countertops and real cabinets and things like that. One thing I do is once I get to a pretty good estimate, I always get a pre-appraisal done because there's a lot of things you have to do to protect yourself because when you go to sell these, no one really works with them. The lender doesn't really know what they're doing. The appraiser that the buyer has to get doesn't know what they're doing. Inspectors don't know what to do. So I've just kind of learned from process of getting it done to me. This is what I'm going to do to eliminate these headaches. Once I find that price, then I kind of know. And when we do the shadow event, I'm going to get everyone a price sheet, a literal 2 example of projects that what I put into it, what they were worth, what I bought the land for. I mean, so I wish I had that years ago because I had no idea. All of a sudden, like you said, moving mobile homes went up. I had heard a few years ago putting in a well was $9,000. Well, now they're $15,000. And if you don't know that right away, all of a sudden you maybe are eating into your profit a lot. Um, and then I'm looking at the land. What's there? Sometimes you will find some with septic available. Maybe it's had power previously. That cuts out a lot of your costs. Like this raw land we're going to. I mean, that's before you even get a chance to move a home in there, you're going to spend probably $40,000 just in developing that land, getting it ready for home.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Got to do your homework. Got to do your due diligence, and always start backwards. I love that motto. Start backwards. Best case, worst case, and most likely scenario. Work backwards, and if the numbers make sense, we go back to the same thing we coaches. If the numbers don't make sense, stop trying to force it. It's not going to happen.
Sure.
Then you're going to have hiccups. Then you're going to have oh my gosh moments. Yeah, those are costly typically. They mean more money. And if you're already in the hole, you're just getting further and further. Last one for you, Robert. So, deal breaker. The one thing that you would say, no matter how we put it, it's not going to be a deal for me.
Besides price not working out, I mean, my model was I always like to aim for 15% of that ARV as profit. And that's after everything, all your soft costs, if you're using hard money, your insurance, everything. If it's not even at that number, then I'm going to just move on. And I always run my numbers. I take off what if the rehab, the things up 10% unexpectedly, and what if 10% less? Do you still make profit? Then it's probably a good deal. The other thing that would stop me is the county. If the county is just being too difficult, which Bartow was, I mean, I was going to get a piece of land for $12,000. And you got to think, how could you lose, right? Well, once they told me that 512 pitch roof, and I start calling these factories, and not only did the price of the home go up, but then I'm realizing they can't ship the roof attached. And just the cost of another shipping cost of moving the roof and getting a set crew with a crane to lift this thing on. I mean, we're looking at an extra $12,000. It was already a thin deal anyway. So, something like that was something. The county is a big thing. If I really think it's going to be an uphill battle and it's going to take me a year to get approval, it's not worth it. There's other deals out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, those of you joining, I hope you find this stuff informative. Great stuff as always, Robert. I mean, he doesn't hold back. He shares his inside details. I mean, and that's what this is about, adding value. But June 10th, you're going to want to join us. I'm going to be out there with them. It's going to be a small group. We have decided to also do it virtually. Hopefully, Robert has Wi-Fi by then. That'll help out. But if not, it'll still be playing in the background. You'll still be able to interact, ask questions. So, Robert, city and state where this is taking place.
This is going to be in Ball Ground, Georgia. So this is in Pickens County. Again, one of the easier municipalities to deal with, but this is a good one for everyone to see because this was literally just a piece of land that it had to be developed from ground up. No water available at the time, no power, no septic, nothing. So again, this is one of those. This is not going to be one of those 2-month projects. This is one that takes quite a long time and a lot more cost involved too. So this is a great one to see. There were some challenges, and we'll be able to see it all, from beginning to go. And I will give everyone a sheet with that exact project. Hey, here's what we're putting into it exactly because we're getting toward the end. Here's what we'll sell it for because I've sold 2 other ones on that street, so I know exactly what it'll sell for.
Absolutely. So, and some of you, I know I'm sitting here watching you on Instagram. You are ready. If you're investing in a mobile home park, if you're doing rentals, flips, Section 8s, veteran assistance, we have all these strategies. You're ready. Okay. Maybe this is before a mobile home. And, pros and cons to everything. I love mobile home communities, but there's a lot of rules, a lot of regulations. Bogino doesn't have any rules besides the one he makes. And obviously the county has to deal with it. But at the event, we're going to be covering a lot of the stuff here. How to comp mobile homes to houses. He talked about slightly about detitling a mobile home to land, which means converting it from personal property to real property, making it part of the deed. We're going to go over that, pros and cons of that as well. We're going to be talking about structuring the rentals. Insurance, which we're getting into this. I know you're insuring your asset, though, Robert. So we're going to be talking about options to that as well. How to find buyers, how to find leads like this. I'm sure you're going to share how you go out and find some of these properties. So, Robert, I ran this by Robert, and Robert gave me the A-OK, and that was anybody who sends us an email. Now, on Instagram, I've already put it at j@garciamhu.com. You can also visit garciamhu.com. If you want to join us June 10th, that's a Saturday morning, okay? You can join in for half the price of what is going, but only today. Seats are going to be filling up fast. Robert, do we have a cap as to how many people we're going to allow to the event?
No, I think the last one we did, I think we had 20 or 30.
I would say probably around that.
Yeah.
I mean, again, mobile homes are small. Now, Roberts is not small because it's a beautiful double wide, but we're always still thinking safety. And we want to make sure that we answer everybody's questions. Again, we're trying to add value. So I would say the cap, let's do around 25. 25 Zoom, you can join as many as you can, but hopefully you can join us on that. Robert, any last messages for those that do want to join us or can join us out there?
Sure. I would say the difference is, don't be scared by these numbers I'm saying. I keep throwing these huge numbers out compared to a park. I know sometimes you get houses for free or $1,000 or $5,000 and put 5,000 or 10,000 into it. I will go over all this. A lot of my deals, I get funded 100%, because investors or hard money guys see the profits on these. I said I aim for 15% of ARV. I typically blow that out of the water every project. It doesn't mean that you have to have that $150,000 in your pocket. There are ways to do this. More and more guys, that are investing want to do this. They see it as a safe way to invest. These are especially, lenders that went through that 2010 crash, and they're seeing that affordable housing. I never like to use these words recession-proof, but I saw it very clearly that I had some listings as an agent in the 500s, and the last 12 months they've just been dropping in price, where very sophisticated investor was between 3 deals lost between $10,000 and $30,000 on each of his flips in a row. And I maybe didn't rub it into him, but my mobile homes are listed the same that just kept inching up. I mean, it's a very recession-proof thing. I think we need more of it. But yeah, just don't get scared by the numbers. If you find the deal, it's good enough, you'll find the money.
And that's why you want to join us. Come out and see the real structure. Everything is put together and then see again. I don't mind investing more and more if it means a beautiful return. And I see it here all day long. So that's what you're going to come out and learn. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us this Saturday morning. We're going to put more information throughout the week. Visit GarciaMHU.com. Robert's page on there will be tagged as well. You can, I'm sure, message him direct as well. But we hope to see you all out there. Robert, thank you for joining me this morning.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, until next time.